Hello everyone. Let's talk about developers, the business, and how we can get them to talk to each other. And if you have read at least a single book about public speaking, you probably have heard that it's important to tell a story. And I have a story for you. This is a Carl, a developer. This is a Christine, a stakeholder. They don't talk with each other, and they build a crappy product. End of story. Okay. Truth be told, I have a better story, but that's the gist of it. That's what we will be talking about today. How people build crappy products and what can we do. And I told you I have better stories, so that's the first one. I want you to build kind of an intuition what I mean when I say that people need to talk to the business or what kind of issues stem from that. So the first story is from Swissborg. I worked there. I worked there for at least 4 years now. And Swissborg is a financial platform. We have a lot of parameters, a lot of business parameters, many of which are expressed in a particular currency. So for example, you have a minimum withdrawal amount, right? So the amount, the minimum amount that you can withdraw from the system. And we have quite a lot of such parameters. We also have quite a lot of currencies. So in normal fiat world, you have, I don't know, tens, maybe 200 currencies around the world, and that's it. In the crypto world, you have thousands. And this means all the parameters that are defined per currency the list gets quite long. Okay, now the parameters we have, they are expressed in a given currency, and they are set by the business. So there is a dedicated dedicated teams that are not engineers that are responsible for configuring the system in the right way. And we had this system for a long time. And after a few years, and few years mean few years of setting those parameters periodically by people for various cases, what I learned is that the business people, they never think in terms of the native currency. So let's say they want to set up a parameter for a thing like, I don't know, USDC or Trump or Sol or any other Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. They usually don't think in terms of the native currency, so Bitcoin. They think and operate in terms of euro equivalent. So when they want to say the minimum withdrawal amount, they say it's €5 and then they calculate it for all the currencies. And as you can imagine, that creates quite a lot of issues because the rates fluctuate, so the values get outdated, but it also creates quite a burdensome process of setting those values. They need to calculate the equivalence. And building the system in a way that would do the calculation automatically is pretty straightforward. It's maybe like, 2 days of work. But we never knew how they operate, so we built a dummy system and wasted everyone's time. A second similar lesson also from my current team. So right now I work in a department called Treasury Accounting and Controlling. We're responsible for recording all the financial transactions within the system. And when we record them, it's important how they get recorded from an accounting perspective. So we have a process, it's called accounting design. We prepare something, we show it to the business, we discuss, improve, and then this gets implemented. For this, we have a standard format, like a CSV file that has like example operations showing how they will be recorded. That's how we talk about it. And then, once again, after a few years of having the system in place, I learned that the format that we have makes actually no sense. Like, it shows the usual accounting operations, meaning transfers between two accounts, like double entry bookkeeping, but in a format that was completely random, or like it was invented by the engineers. It didn't match anything that the business used on the daily occurrences. So when they had to come and talk to us, those designs, they had to do mental gymnastics to understand what we are telling them, even though it was their domain. And changing that format was like, 15 minutes of work, but we never knew that it's wrong because they never told us and we never asked. And we never tried to figure out what's the actual formats that they use. So we create quite a lot of issues with that and requires quite a lot of work, like those mental gymnastics on the business side again. And with those two stories, I want to kind of show that it's very important to understand what we are doing. And this has a couple of components. First of all, we need to understand the domain. So what problem are we solving? Then there is the business, so the company for which we work. So, and understanding the business means understanding why we do what we do the way we do it. So every company solves the same problem in a different way. And then there is the environment, so the external world that affects our business, like regulators, competition, and stuff like that. And then there are users, so we need to understand how people interact with our product. And my experience from, over a decade of software engineering is that we don't understand enough. Developers don't try to understand what they are doing. And we want to fix that. But let's step back. Let's try to understand why it's like that. Why we don't understand? Why don't we understand enough? And my hypothesis here is that we focus on technology. We focus on technology a bit too much. So when you go to a conference or Reddit, what do you read about? Compiler features, effect systems, JSON parsing, tooling, category theory, syntax, databases, scalability, performance, architecture, security, testing, drama. Okay, drama is not technical, but everything else is. And then there is a quite important psychological mechanism taking place. The more something is present, the more something is mentioned, for example, conference talks, in the documentation, in library marketing. So whenever someone brags about what they have built and what they mention in that bragging, basically we attach more value to it. Even if we don't want to do it, we still do it. That's how human brain works. We see people focus on it, so we think that is important. And then you go to work and reality hits you. You learn that all those things, they don't matter for the business. They don't matter to the business, at least directly. What happens is that all those technical aspects matter indirectly, sometimes through a very long chain of proxies. So, for example, the pipe safety doesn't matter. The developer productivity does matter, so it's a proxy. The bug rate matters, so it's a proxy. The performance doesn't matter, but the cost of infrastructure matters. So once again, a proxy. In the end, most of the times, what matters is how quickly and cheaply you can solve real problems. And that's it. All those technical matters are just behind it. If we can connect them, that's great, but they don't matter. And then more times than I wish, I've seen the case where the devs have built a very good technical solution, perfectly safe, performant, maintainable, that's decommissioned within months, or that no one uses, or that solved the wrong problem. All of that because developers focused on what they are building, but they didn't focus on why. Okay, now I probably have to say that the opposite is also bad. So under-engineered system can be very problematic. The problem is that happens much less common because you, for example, to have scalability issues, you need to reach certain scale. And projects fail before getting those technical issues. Okay, so now, how can we do better? And I'm gonna be frank with you. I will be selling you things. I will be selling you something I have built that solves that problem, and that something is called the Business4s. So what is Business4s? First, on the most basic level, this is an ecosystem of a business-oriented tools. So basically a set of projects, libraries that focus on some high-level problems. On top of that, it is a community, or at least it's meant to be a community. A group of people that can discuss certain issues, that can share certain mindset. And it's a bit special because we already have, communities. We have Zio, we have type level, many projects have their own communities. We have the Scala Discord, we have the contributors Discord, but they mostly focus on technical stuff. And the Business4s community, I wanted to focus on not so technical things, or like a bit higher level. So maybe things like how to sell Scala in your company, or how to convince your manager to not remove it, or how to hire for Scala developers, how to teach Scala developers, how to, onboard them, take people from different languages, how to prevent the over engineering of the system. So all of that is less technical, more important. And then the ecosystem and the community is meant to be a counterweight to a technical side of Scala. So when I told you the more often we see something, the more value we assign to it. And I want us to hear more about business problems, about high-level problems, and about solutions to them. So the more you will hear about Business4s, the more likely you will be to remind yourself that the business side is important. Then you need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And there's one more level. So Business4s, in the end, is a plot, is a scheme, is a social engineering experiment to change Scala perception and Scala developers' perception. I believe we can shape the world so that when they see Scala, they think strong, business-focused language and community. Okay, enough of theory. Let's now talk about the projects. So before we discuss that, let's see why devs and the business don't talk. One of the reasons is that they speak different languages. We talk about pull requests, they talk about compliance requirements or audits. They see different parts of the picture, and indeed they care about different things. And all of that is correct, normal, there is nothing wrong with it. The thing is that we have a common goal. Both developers in the business, they want to build a useful system, they want to have a useful system. So how do we bring them together? How we close the gap? How we let them talk more? And there are different ways to do it, but we are developers. So let's create tools that make it easier to create that common ground. Now a small disclaimer. I will be talking about things that exist but you shouldn't use them, and things that don't exist at all. It's just to showcase the idea and the focus of Business4s. Let's start with, by far, the biggest, probably most impactful project of the whole thing, which is Workflows4s. It's a library for defining long-running persistent processes. And I will not explain you the whole thing. I will not tell you how it works, but I will tell you why it is important for this closing the gap between devs and the business. And the first reason, the first important bit is that it comes with visualizations. So when you build a process, you get some visual output that you can discuss with the business. Everyone can understand some boxes thrown around as long as there is not too much complexity around those boxes. The second thing is that it comes with not one, but two visualizations. The first one is, this is Mermaid. The Second one is BPMN. BPMN is a standard language, like language in the sense of UML, for describing this kind of long-running business processes. And the integration with it is painful. It's not great, but we keep it because this is a standard that is used to describe this kind of stuff among non-technical people. Third thing is that it comes with a drafting system. So the point here is that you, with very minimal effort, depending on your process complexity, maybe half an hour, maybe 2 or 3 hours, but in a quite minimal time, you can draft the whole process. Then you generate the visualization, and you can go to your colleagues, to your business, and discuss it. And you can discuss it early without committing too much time to it. And then you can learn if your understanding matches their understanding. Another thing is introspection. So when things happen, you execute your workflow, you can visualize that execution. So what steps took place. And that's really neat when you need to understand what happened. Of course, you have logs, but your operational people, your business people, they don't. And that's why we have this. But those things, they are not enough on their own, because how do you deliver those outputs to the relevant people? And that's why during the summer, by participating in Google Summer of Code, we started building the web UI, which is almost complete, like literally maybe a week or two before it's released. Okay, another project, Decisions4s. It's a sort of a rule engine, just much simpler. And again, the core value of it, from the perspective of bridging the gap, is visualizations. You define the rules, and then you can show them to the business. You can discuss them, you can verify that they're correct. And you also have diagnostics. So when a decision is taken, you can log this and then review to see why a particular decision was taken. This is particularly useful for audits and this kind of purposes. Another project, not exactly a usable one, but it's a domain-oriented Scala style guide. And it's very minimal. It collects only a couple of advice, but ones that focus on the business. So here, for example, is that we should wrap things at the end of the line. Why? Because we read from left to right, and whatever stands at the beginning of the line is seen as more important than what's in the end. Like more important, or will be read more often when we, for example, skim through the code. Another thing is splitting the packages. So should we do it by responsibility or should we do it by the domain? If we put domain first, it's by the domain. Okay, now the question. What's behind the scenes of your business, or of almost any business? There are people, operational people, that do manual work. They can be, factory workers, or, people responsible with customer support, or someone who works in the warehouse, or somewhere in the office. Doesn't really matter. They are people, and they probably use forms and spreadsheets. And because of that, there is another library that is also almost released. It was built for the workflows for web UI, but it's a standalone thingy. It allows to create forms rapidly, like derived directly from data structures, so that you can focus your time elsewhere and create the UIs for your business as fast as possible. But the UIs in the browser might be more than a hindrance than the actual benefit. Because maybe those people don't want to go to the UIs to do stuff. Imagine a case where you need to get an approval on something. How do you model that in the browser? Like someone has to go and see the list of things to be approved and click approve or not. Can we do better? I think yes. We can send them a message on Slack. Like everyone uses messenger communication, like this kind of messengers today, especially in the remote companies. So why not focus the workflow there. And Chatopsfor-S is another project built during Google Summer of Code. It's a bit further from being released, like I still need to put a bit of effort there. Feel free to join me. But the goal here is to make it as easy and as friendly as possible to build those kind of small interactive processes through Slack or maybe other chat platforms. We'll see. Okay, now it's a good moment to talk about the elephant in the room, because whenever we hear about the interaction between engineers and the business, we probably hear about domain-driven design. And why I haven't mentioned it before is that I have a complicated relationship with domain-driven design. Because DDD has a lot of different concepts, and I think they have varying value. So if I'm to order them from the most useful to least useful, there's like ubiquitous language and bounded context that I think are really great terms, really great concepts. They help a lot. And then there's nothing, 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 nothing. And then at the very bottom, there's everything else. Aggregate, value, object, factories, and whatever else is there in DDD. Okay, those things are still valuable, let you to help you think, help you build systems, but in the grand scheme of things, they're just implementation details. Still, for those good parts, there's another project under Business4s, and that's domain docs for S, which you can think of as a Scala doc, but focused on the business side of things. And it's also not ready yet, but the goal here is that we will be able to generate a documentation from code that is on the much higher abstraction layer than Scala doc. That is something that we can show to the business, and that's something that can help us speak the same language, share the concepts we understand, because we deal with the codes, expose them, but without the complexity. Okay, can we do more? Those projects that I already mentioned, they exist in one way or another. Might not be ready, but they exist. So we can do more. There is a mentorship program, something that I started last year, and that had limited success. I liked the initiative. I think the mentees also like the initiative. I just need to revive it and rethink the formula a little bit. And of course, I need more mentors. But maybe a few words why I think this is important. I believe that the best way to learn things is from someone. It's not from books, not from courses, it's from interactions from someone who did something and that can answer your particular questions. And that's why I started the mentorship program. Another thing that doesn't exist is A/B test. So A/B test is something kind of a cornerstone of the modern product development. You want to test multiple ideas, multiple variations of functionality to see which perform better. And I wanted to build something for Scala to help with that. I think I even had a decent idea on how to build it, how to make it a bit different from everything else that is out there. But I learned that it requires too much effort. And that's why the project is currently on hold. Another thing that doesn't exist yet is SSO4S. So I really want to double down on using Scala.js for back office applications, for basically for any kind of internal tools. But for this to be successful, we need ability to integrate with some kind of SSO. Be it Google, Microsoft, OneLogin, whatever. And of course, you can do it today, but it requires effort. And what I told you at the beginning, what is important is how quickly and cheaply we can build things. And for this to be quick and cheap, we need to have tools to help us do it. That's why next year, probably during Google Summer of Code, I want to build this. Another thing that doesn't exist, and I don't even know in what form it could exist, is Spreadsheet4s. For the long time in my career, I was trying to find spreadsheets. And over and over, I learned that I'm failing. And if you cannot beat someone, you have to join them. So my current idea is that spreadsheets are unavoidable. Let's maybe try to build a toolkit for dealing with them. But I don't have anything more than that. It's just a thought at this point. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That is there inside the Business4s today. But before we move forward, I want to tell you that all those tools, they still have technical complexity inside. There are still reasons why I've built them in Scala and not everything else, why I think still Scala is the best language for those kind of problems. And if you look inside, for example, Workflows4s, you will see all those things. A lot of functional programming, a lot of architectural concepts, distributed programming, and stuff like that. Decisions4s is similar. It has, higher kind of data and polymorphic functions and that type of derivation and everything like that. And then even domain docs4s, which is like a very simple project, it requires understanding of the tasty intermediary format to extract the information. And all of those technical aspects, they don't matter. That's not what I want to focus on today. So they might be interesting, they are definitely useful, but if I could build the same things without them, I would gladly do and limit the complexity of the code base. But I cannot. Those things, all those complexities, all those technicalities, they are there for a reason. They make the projects possible. And that's where I want to tell you that boring is good. Simple is good, boring is good. That's why Java is so popular. And boring technology is good, and boring businesses are good. So yeah, everyone is funding AI these days, but I'm looking more into, finance, healthcare, commerce, insurance, and manufacturing and stuff like that. I think those domains are more likely to make real sustainable money more than hype. And the same is with technologies. Idris is cool, Unison is cool, but in the end of the day, if you take the ratio of amount of money generated, I think Java is well ahead of everyone else. And I think Scala can be a boring language, or not necessarily a boring language, but it can be a boring solution in this good sense that we have a stable ecosystem, that we have tools for boring problems, workflows. It's not sexy in any way. This is the most boring you can get, and still we can have a good solution for it. And then we can position Scala as this kind of boring solution to boring problems for boring businesses and get extremely successful based on it. But building all of that, the Business4s and everything around is pretty hard. Because first of all, we need ideas. I'm just a guy. I have my doses of experience, but I haven't seen everything. It's hard to know what is a specialized problem, what is a general problem. So for that, we need plurality of ideas, for opinions, for needs. And we also need feedback. Because I know what I think is a good idea, but I need other people to validate it. And to get proper feedback, we need more adoption. So you cannot improve things, you cannot leave meaningful feedback if you don't try it in the real world, if you don't try to build a real system, you don't try to solve a real problem. And that's why we need more adoption. And on top of that, we need more leaders. Surprisingly, finding contributors is not that hard. Okay, it's still, you can always use more, but it's not that hard. Finding leaders who can, drive the direction, who can drive discussions, who have some sort of a vision, this is really hard. And we need more of those. And that's it. So that's all I wanted to show you today. I encourage you to use one of the tools I've shown you to talk a bit more with your business. And if you think this whole thing is a good idea, then come to me, come to our Discord. Show your interest, and we have plenty of room when people can contribute. So thanks a lot.